Hey, good morning. Welcome to another episode of the Daily Dose. And did you know that there's only 5 exercises that you'll ever need when you're over 40? That's right, 5 exercises, just 5 exercises. Now, before I tell you that, if you're coming on here live or if you're coming on a replay, I'd love to know where you're from. I'd love to know where you're chiming in this world. If you're here in Florida, if you didn't know, I'm here in the north part of Florida. It is cold, but not as cold as some of my friends that are up further north, way up north. There's like a winter wonderland going on. But if you will, just share with me. Let me know where you're from. Let me know where you're listening in. Even if you catch this on the replay, I'd love to know the city you're from. Maybe if your weather is terrible out there, I don't want to hear about it. Florida, it's cold enough. But let's talk about the only 5 exercises truly that you'll ever need over 40. Now, you think about exercise. You think about there's ways to exercise. And I bet you would think, gosh, there's just 5 exercises we need. Well, truly, there are only 5 exercises you need. And I'm going to share those with you. And, a lot of times we all get in trouble because we hear like experts say you need to do this exercise and that exercise, and you need to do this type, and you need to do, the fast twitch muscle. You got to get the fast twitch muscles. You got to get the fat burning muscles going. You got to work this muscle to get the tone here and to get tone there. And there's so much, just an overwhelm of confusion. And I want to eliminate the confusion because there truly is only 5 exercises you need. And how do I know that? It's something that I've learned over the years for myself, my own personal fitness journey, as well as helping hundreds, literally hundreds and hundreds of people over the years. In fact, when I had my gym, I used to write all of my workouts, and we serviced anywhere from 100 to 175 local residents in the gym that I used to own. And I did program design every single day. We did program design. And you know what? The core basis for those workouts were 5 exercises. I'm going to share with you what those are right now, but I'd love to know, exercise-wise, what did you do today? If you did some, go ahead and drop that down in the comments below. Maybe you walked, maybe you did a spinning class, maybe you did just a bodyweight workout. A lot of times, there's the day that gets ahead of you and you run out of time. And one of the beautiful things about my students in my coaching program, they get to do workouts that take no more than 30 minutes. And you're like, huh? How do you get stronger and fit in like 30 minutes? And I'm talking about no extra cardio, no extra this or that, literally 30 minutes or less. So if you want to know more about that, just hit me up in a private message. Just send the word Bulletproof, and I'll share with you what I do inside of that. But right now, let's jump in. 5 exercises, only 5 exercises you need. Number one, you need a push. I'm going to run through them real quick and then I'll go through each of them. Number 1, you need a push. Number 2, you need a pull. Number 3, you need a hip hinge. Number 4, you need a squat. Number 5, you need a plank. Now let's go through each of those. You're like, really? That's it? Yes. Number 1, you need our body. See, the reason why we only need 5 exercises, because our bodies don't work in exercises. Like, in other words, you don't go through your day doing like bicep curls or doing shoulder presses, right? Like, that's not how our body works. Our body works in, as far as evolution goes, our body works in movement patterns, right? You think of movement patterns. What are the things that we do throughout the day in order for us to move? Well, we push, like there's things that we push. Maybe we're doing the best diet there is, the pushaways, the table pushaways. Maybe you're pushing yourself away from the table. That's number 1, but truly like the push, the muscles in the front of your body. This is called your anterior chain. You're pushing. So that's one of the exercises. We need a push. What's a simple exercise for the push? Of course, the well-known push-up or bench press or any kind of chest press. So the press or the push is the first exercise you need. The only thing you need over 40, truly. And honestly, if a real just come down to it, it's under 30. And I wish I knew in my 20s and 30s, these are the things that I really mainly needed to focus on. So number 1 is the push. Do you have any idea what the second one is? Go ahead, drop it down there below in the morning. Good morning to you. Good morning. Hey, Renee and April, thank you for jumping in. Lori and the other Lori, 2 Loris. Lori with an I and Lori ending with an E. Good morning to you as well. And hey, listen, if this is helpful to you, don't forget to share this with your friends. This is the one thing. How do I help more people? By getting what I know out to more people. And again, if this was helpful to you, chances are it may be helpful to one of your friends. So all I ask is that you share this. You can share it privately in a message, or you can share it on your page. You can tag me in it. That's cool. But the first one is the push. So that's number one, push up. So right away. Number two, hey, good morning, April, to you. And if you come on, say good morning, just good morning. Even if you catch the replay, I'll come back in and check and make sure I acknowledge you for watching. And if you have questions, don't hesitate to reach out. Number two, so the opposite of the push, right, is the pull, So you think of if the push works all the muscles here, what's the pull gonna do? When you're pulling, you pull with your back, right? Like not your lower back, but you pull using your back muscles. Think of like lat pull downs and rows and things like that. There's lots of different ways you can do pulling type movements. That's the second one, a pull. So you want to work, this is the anterior chain, the front of your body. You want to work the posterior, right? We'll get to the rump, right? The rump roast, but the posterior chain we also want to work. So the backside. So you got the front and the backside. Nice balance there, right? Number three, so that takes care of the upper body, right? The push and the pull. Now, I'm not talking tricep extensions, and I'm not talking like shoulder presses, push and pull. Those are two of the main ones. Number three is the hip hinge. Well, why is the hip hinge one? Well, think about that for a moment. We're sitting down, we're bending at our hips. We get up. We bend over to pick something up. We bend over to put our shoes down. We bend over to maybe pick up our kids or grandchildren. We're sitting in a chair. We get back up. We sit down. Our hips need to move really well. In fact, that's one of the core components, the core components to a great exercise program. That's why I put this as number three, the hip hinge. So what are some things for hip hinge, right? Now you're thinking, is the squat? No. We'll get to that one in just a moment because that's the next one. But hip is where you're bending, when you're bending. Now you got to be careful because a lot of times people get in trouble because they're bending from their back and they end up, guess what, straining their lower back. And they end up injuring themselves because their body's not conditioned properly. And it's usually not when we're younger, right? If you think of like babies and how they move, you think that they can bend over and they can put their head down on the ground, right? And their legs are straight, and we can't do that anymore because we lose the ability to bend from our hips. Why? Because a lot of us do what I'm doing right now, sitting in a chair, we sit at a desk, we sit in our cars, we sit on the couch, we sit, and guess what? The hip stops to work because all we're doing is sitting. So I want to encourage you, hip movements, bridging, where you get down to the floor and you bridge. You see a lot of the ladies now working their booties and they're doing a lot of the glute lifts and the bridging and those type of things, great exercise. But even just bending, a deadlift, if you've ever heard of a deadlift before, now I'm not going to go into all that. I really just want to get you the core emphasis of why there's only 5 exercises you need over 40. Does that make sense so far? If it does, drop me in some thumbs up. Let me know that you're here. Hey, if you're coming back on here, and if you're coming in the replay, do let me know. Replay, just hashtag replay down below so that I know that you came and watched, because I know a lot of people come through and watch, but I want to acknowledge and I want to make sure that you got value out of this. So let's move on to number 4. So again, the hip hinge. If your hip doesn't bend well, I talked about the lower back when you bend. If you can't bend from your hips, well, guess what? Your lower back ends up taking the brunt of the bend, and our low back really isn't meant to move a whole lot. We only have about 15 degrees of movement in our lower back and our lumbar spine, which is L1 through L5. So if you think of where do people get their back problems? In that area, if you've ever had you're thrown out your back, or you've had a disc problem, or maybe you've had even some surgery over the years, you've had some issues with your back that caused a lot of problems. A lot of times that comes because your hip's not moving well. So just keep that in mind. And again, there's lots of great exercise for hip movement. Now let's move on down to the next part in the chain, which is the knee, right? The squat. It's kind of funny because I hear this all the time. My doctor told me not to squat, my bones and my joints. And I'm like, well, how are you getting up and down from a chair? How are you able to sit and stand? And how do you get out of, how do you get out of bed in the morning? You usually sit up in your bed and then you stand up and you sit to stand. That's a squat, isn't it? Like you get in a chair, you get in a car, you're squatting, right? So that the squat is actually an essential tool to do. Now, the problem is, for most people, when they get in troubles, they don't know how to. Now you think, how hard could it be to squat? Well, it's not so much that you don't know what to do. It's that your body doesn't do it. It's not able to do it. Why? Because of what we just talked about. Your body has been maybe sedentary for a while. Maybe you have an extra 50 pounds on your body when you're trying to squat. So maybe the weight is being displaced over different parts, on your knees, on your lumbar, on your back. It might be hurting versus your legs. Maybe you're not conditioned your legs to take on the extra weight you've put on over the years, and now your back is giving you problems. But the squat is essential, and that's a knee movement. The knee needs to bend. You need to have good movement in your knees so you can function. Plus it helps for exercise. Now you're saying, okay, so squats, so things that are going to have you squat like I don't think I have to demonstrate. You can do everything from something as basic as a wall sit to a partial squat. You can do sit to stand in a chair. You can do with some light weights. You can do squats with free weights and kettlebells and machines. There's Smith machines, and you see people doing squats. You might have seen me do some stuff with squats and free weights. There's lots of ways to do squats. You got to make sure you're doing it properly. So obviously you can definitely, especially if your body isn't moving well to begin with, and then you go and do some squats, it's going to be hard to get some benefit out of that. So that's number 4. Number five, I know it's your favorite. Number 5 is the plank. So the fifth exercise that you only need when you're over 40 or you're over 50 or even over 60 is the plank. Now, why the plank? Is that like, well, okay, the plank is like, I know what the plank is. If you don't know, the plank is essentially you're in a push-up position, but instead of from your hands, you're on your forearms, and you can do it from your hands. There's lots of variations of planks, side planks, front planks, extended planks, wide planks, all kinds of different planks. So what does a plank do? You think of a plank as like a board. You think of like your body like in that push-up position, and then you have your arms down and your feet. Well, the center of gravity is in the middle. What does that do? It causes your core muscles, your abs, and all around. You think of your core as like the corset on women women used to wear, those corsets that used to be tightly round to keep your waist nice and tight, right? So that's the corset. So your core is really important. Why is it important? Because of what I just talked about, your lumbar spine, what I talked about for the hip hinge and the squat. When you keep your back secure and safe, your abs do that work. But if your abs are weak and your core is weak, then you're going to have a lot of trouble being able to do things like squats, being able to do things like hip bending over, picking up things, and that's where you can get in trouble. Plus, you're like, well, let's talk about the flat stomach. Yes, well, again, unfortunately, you can't spot reduce, right? We all know that. Let's just dispel the myth. There's no such thing as spot reducing, which means you can't just do the triceps. You can't just do a bunch of crunches and expect your abs to get flatter. That's not how it works. That's a conversation for another day. But what I can tell you is one of the most important exercises is keeping your core strong. It prevents back injuries. It prevents your body from getting out of whack. It also helps keep your organs and everything nice and tight. And if you're eating the right foods, the core can help get those muscles tighter and toner. But again, that's not the only thing that you need. But those are the only 5 exercises you need over 40. So let's just review real quick. The push, the pull, the hip hinge, the squat, and the plank. So out of those 5, I want to know what exercise maybe you need to start focusing more on. I'd love for you to drop it down. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Is it the plank? Is it the pull? Is it the push? Do you need help with it? I'd love to know which one you want to add back in your life, or maybe add for the very first time so that it can help you. And I would say is you can add all 5 in. That's the beautiful thing, especially if you have the right kind of plan in place, the right kind of structure, and you know how to exercise. The reality is when it comes to exercise, it doesn't have to be overwhelming to you. You don't have to spend hours and hours in the gym. You don't have to use bands and kettlebells and free weights. Those are all great tools, but you don't have to use those to get great results. In fact, those 5 exercises that I've just shared with you, the majority of my clients use their body to get what they need, and most of them are either over 40 or even over 50, and I have a few over 60, and they're working on getting their bodies in the best shape of their life by focusing on those 5 exercises. Now, of course, if you're stuck and you have no freaking clue how to do a squat at your age, or maybe your body has some aches and pains, or you have some past injuries or surgeries, or you've had some arthritis, or your doctor told you not to do things on your shoulder, of course that's going to make it difficult for you to pursue this, and it can be frustrating. The good news is there's people like me. In fact, you can reach out to me for help. In fact, if you want help, I would suggest not winging it anymore, because what happens when you wing your exercise, when you wing it in your exercise routine, a couple of things happen. Right? You may get some early results, but you don't know how to progress. You don't know how to make the exercises challenging and appropriate for you so that you get optimal results without getting injured. Like one of the things I see all the time is people in their 40s and 50s, we start an exercise routine. It is, February, or maybe getting going on your resolutions, maybe even stop because a couple things happen. You either did too much too soon and got hurt. you either didn't do enough or you winged it and you didn't really see any results at all and you got frustrated and you just like bailed on it altogether. Or like, here's the or you just have no idea what to do and you're just like more confused than ever before. And you're like, well, this person told me I need to do high intensity workout. And this person told me I need to do free weights. And this person told me that I need to do that boot camp class. And it can be overwhelming. I totally understand what you're saying. So if you want help, what you can do is reach out to me. Just send me a private message. All you have to do is put bulletproof in there. And what you and I can do is work on a plan to truly bulletproof not just your exercise routine, but your body and your habits so that you can not just benefit from the exercise, you can really truly get the best out of your exercise for great results. So that's all I got. Take care. Now, if this actually was something that you found value in, all I ask is that you share this with a friend. Here, again, I come on here every single day at 8 a.m. to share with you tips, tools, tricks, things that can help you, secrets that I've learned over 25 years of helping people. And if this helped you, it's going to help somebody else. That's all I have. Take care and have a blessed day. We'll see you soon.